Welcome back, Motivated Masculine Men podcast here today. It's another lovely morning here in New Zealand. It's nice and sunny and shiny. The weather's supposed to pack in later on, and I'm going to Jelly Roll tonight. I hope it doesn't rain. I just got fingers crossed that it doesn't rain so that I can, because Jelly Roll's outside. It's in a big outdoor kind of, it's called Western Springs, where they do stock car racing. And so they turn it into a concert kind of venue as well, which is pretty cool. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't rain tonight. But good to have you back on, Ryan. It's been about a month, I think, since we recorded the last one. But it's
Yeah.
great. I love it. I love our conversations, always have. But today, before for the audience out there, Ryan was on a little while back. Go have a look. It was only about 3, 4 episodes back. But we had a really good conversation around men, around masculinity, around kind of what drives men, what men should stand on foundationally. And Ryan mentioned in that episode around energetic flow. And I wanted to get Ryan back on to talk about that because he is very knowledgeable from what I'm aware on this topic. And my wife went through a recent thing where she just kind of really touched into that, and she's always talked about the energetic flow, but it's something that I'm not super familiar with, and I don't know how. Yeah, I'm gonna say I haven't learned enough to be able to actually embrace it and actually flow with it. But every person that I know that flows and sits with and lives by going through that energetic kind of system, and I'm probably botching the crap out of this here, Ryan, so apologies.
You're good,
But
man.
I want to learn more about it, and that's what this show is all about, is learning and helping men evolve and grow. So I'm gonna hand it over to you. I'm probably gonna ask questions along the way, but tell us a little bit about that energetic, how to sit in that, what it is. Just yeah, I'll hand the mic over to you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's always good to talk to you. So when it comes to energy, I mean, I focus with my coaching group, I focus on four specific categories: fitness, intellect, relationships, and energy. And the energy aspect of it is really about like your spiritual alignment. Okay. And it really comes down to aligning those four categories with each other. I kind of see it as like I'm looking at my stove right here, and I see it as like the four burners on my stove. As I work through these four categories specifically, there tends to be, just like on my stove, there's like two burners that are smaller in the back, a medium-sized one in front, and then a really big one in front. And that tends to be how my focus goes as I go through each quarter of the year, trying to improve my fitness, my intellect, my relationships, and my energy. And so this quarter, the last quarter of 2025, I'm focusing on energy. That's my main focus. So that's on the big burner, right? And naturally, there'll be one that typically takes precedent, but I'm really putting a lot of focus and energy into having my spiritual energy or my spiritual alignment take the front burner, so to speak. And energy isn't necessarily about having just more energy, right? It's about having it aligned. Like I said, I mentioned alignment, right?
Yeah, which is
And
where
most men,
that's where I'm like I have I guess a 30,000 foot view of that energetic alignment, and I'm like,
gotcha.
and I know you have that feeling where you're like, yeah, cool, I'm in alignment with that, but it's like then but most of the time I'm like I feel like a scatterbrain, you know,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
things.
yeah. And we're so distractible,
Mm.
right? As men, we're just so distractible. A lot of things get our attention because it's in our nature to pay attention to those things that would either harm us or hinder us, and we can't sometimes shut it off. One of the things that I like to remind men specifically about is that we as men don't particularly need to find more fuel for our spiritual energy. We need to remove the friction that's burning it up. We need to establish the boundaries, cut out the things that would otherwise steal it away. Once we just do that, it's kind of like plugging the holes in your boat, right? Are you just going to sit in a boat with a bunch of holes in it and keep scooping out water? Or are you going to plug the holes and then scoop the water out, right? Because if you're just spinning your wheels, you're not going to have any energy for anything, let alone your spiritual alignment. So you really have to set some boundaries and decide what those boundaries are, communicate them to the proper person or authority, whatever it is, and then hold firm to those boundaries. So you can like basically protect your fortress, right? Your fortress being your spiritual alignment, your mind, things like that. When you're out of alignment, energy leaks, like I was saying, like through those proverbial holes in your boat, which could come through as like resentment, overthinking, disconnection. Those are the things that are putting holes in our boat, right? So if we can kind of shore those things up, whether the resentment is coming from ourselves, maybe we feel like it's coming from our partner, those are the conversations that we need to have. We establish boundaries, we hold to those boundaries, but we also need to communicate them, right?
Mm.
And when it comes to overthinking, just for example, maybe when we find ourselves spinning ourselves up, we take a breath. We just take like one breath and give ourselves time between stimulus and response. And you'd be amazed at how many neurons can fire in one breath, right? It's like when you're in a life-threatening situation, you hear a lot of people say that time slowed down,
Yeah.
right? But that's not really what happens. What happens is your brain is firing so fast that all your little neurons are just firing rapid fire that in your mind, time is slowing down. And the neurons all throughout your brain are just firing away. But we can actually leverage that. We can kind of hijack it, so to speak, if we just take that breath and give our brain just that one little breath's worth of time between stimulus and response to think things through, formulate a response, take a breath, set yourself up for success on the front end, right? I mean, I've been in the fire service for close to 20 years now. Coming up in January, it'll be 20 years.
Congratulations.
Thanks,
That's
man.
impressive, man.
And whenever we show up to a scene, we don't just go in fire hoses ablazing, guns ablazing. We show up, we take a second, we assess the situation, formulate a plan, put that plan into action, and then reassess. And we just keep doing that loop, right? It's kind of like the OODA loop: observe or orient, observe, decide, act, and then you just do it again and again and again until the thing is resolved. But yeah, I mean, I focus my energy through those four categories. And as long as I'm working on each of those four categories, I can make sure that my energy is being spent purposefully, intentionally, and like measurably. So if I start the day, so again, I'll just remind you: fitness, intellect, relationships, and energy. So if I start the day, let's say walking on a treadmill while reading a book, and then maybe I'm at the gym with my wife, walking on the treadmill, reading a book, right? I'm
Feel,
compounding
you're filling
three out of four of
all your
those.
buckets.
And I'm compounding that like within the span of 1 hour. So if I can, the more I can like habit stack or compound my efforts, then if I've just taken 1 hour of the day to fill all those things at the same time, that takes actually talent and practice. Like you
Yeah.
have to practice doing that. If I
Practice
can do
focusing
that,
on those things as
yeah,
well. Like if you focus on it of my wife's got to come with me and oh my God, I've got
right,
to do this. I've got to walk on this treadmill and I really am
right.
not enjoying this book and I really don't want to be doing this. It's a
Right.
completely different
It's
energetic flow.
completely going to drain you. It's just
Hmm.
going to drain you, right? So there's nothing wrong with putting that thing down, putting that book down, or setting the boundary, putting that thing aside that's otherwise draining you, and moving forward. Like this morning, I went to the gym with my youngest boy, and I came off of my 48-hour shift this morning. I had a virtual call, and then went to the gym for an hour with him, and it was awesome. And we get to share that space and that time together. We get to talk about things, but I'm building my body, right? I'm working on my fitness. I'm working on my relationship with my boy, and I've compounded that. So I've
Yeah.
got those things done today. I've scheduled time for myself to feel intellectually stimulated by having conversations like this. There will be a moment later where I've set aside time to feel as if I'm spending or I'm taking in something to pour into my spiritual cup. And so it's like mapped out. And if that takes me 4 hours out of the day, I still have 20 more hours, right,
Yeah.
to do whatever I want to do. But I've at least done the intentional work to take care of myself in that way, to obtain energy, to bring energy in, to protect it, and to utilize it appropriately.
It's interesting listening to you talk about this. Again, these conversations are great because I actually then reflect on the fact of actually I am doing all of those things. I just do it in a different way. I live by a pyramid that I call it. And so there's
Okay.
three levels of the pyramid. The base is self. So the largest section, the foundation is self. Then the middle is relationships or family. And in that family bucket, it's kind of split into your intimate relationship, then your children, and then your family. And family is not necessarily blood. Family is the people that you classify as family.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
above that is work and everybody else. And so living by that, you're filling those buckets. And then on the outside of the pyramid, the bottom is focus, then there's language, and then there's physiology. And so when you encompass all of those aspects together, same thing, like you said, you can go to like my wife and I will go to the gym together. And it's not a burden her going to the gym because we're not necessarily training together. It's cool. I get to spend time with my wife while she trains and I train, and I get to fill that self bucket. I get to fill the relationship bucket. and then also that
Yeah.
health side of things aspect as well. So
I really
cool.
love that. I love how the self is at the foundation of
Yeah.
that pyramid. And it has to be. It has to be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
many of us in the, especially in like the service industry, public service, we die on this hill of martyrdom. Like we become martyrs of like this selfless service idea,
Mhm.
right? Like always putting others before yourself. Well, you can only do that for so long before you die, before you burn out, before
Yeah.
you're all used up and you're no good to anybody. And then they just throw you out because your chewing gum flavor is gone and they
Yeah.
get a new stick of gum. And we
And so
keep
many people
doing
run
that.
that pyramid upside down and they wonder why their life
Yeah,
keeps consistently falling over and they don't feel balanced.
100%.
And it's not
100%, dude.
about, I remember having a coach once and I was talking to her about this and I learned this when I burned out and I came back to came back to the US and rode a motorcycle around. I was like, okay, I got to sort my life out. And that
Yeah.
trip was all around building that bucket of self up.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember, a couple of years ago, I had a coach and I was talking with her, and I was again we're always trying to grow as men, always trying to create this balance. I was trying to create more calm in my life because I thrive on chaos so much. And just like anybody in the services industry, we do thrive
Yeah,
on chaos. We hunt
it's
for it.
true.
You're not a
It's true.
firefighter because you don't want there to be fires. You're a firefighter because you want to go save people and put fires out.
Right.
I'm making that sound very basic, but we thrive in that chaos. When
Yeah.
shit is going wrong, we are the calmest ones in the room. And I remember, I was trying to find more calm in my life, and I had this coach, and she was like, "Chris, are you diminishing other levels of your pyramid to create the self one?" I was like, "If I'm honest, probably a little bit." She's like, "Chris,
Mm,
it's not about diminishing them; it's about growing them." How
yeah.
do we grow those buckets so that they're larger and larger and larger and larger so that, when you do go to the gym, that actually fills your self bucket even more than it currently does so that then you can actually put more into your relationship. You can then put more into your work. I
Hmm.
was like, oh, that's actually a really good way to think about it instead of trying to, go, oh, no, I've got to say no to, work. I've got to say no to this call. I've got to say no to this, presentation because, I need to go take care of myself. It's going, okay, cool. How do I fill that? How do I make that self actually mean more and fill my self bucket even more? I know when we talked last time, I'm pretty sure you mentioned something about vibrations.
Well, yeah, yeah.
I'm interested
Vibration and
in that.
frequency.
Yeah, vibration and frequency. I'm very interested in that. And I should have mentioned that before we talked, but while you were talking, I was like, vibrations. That's the one that I really wanted to learn. It was energy and vibrations. And the reason I say that is my wife recently, I think we may have talked about this last time we were on. My wife recently this year kind of went through a little, I call it a mini version. I don't mean to diminish it, but like it was
No, no,
very
no.
important for her. But for me, it felt like a little bit of a mini version of what I went through back in 2017, 2018 when I left law enforcement and was very rock bottom. And she's done a lot of work on vibration and frequencies, and she does kind of understand it, but obviously, but I just can't hear it in the right ways from her. So I wanted to talk to you about it. Again, coming from a man, it probably is going to sound different and different, experiences. But she sat in that vibration and that frequency and really just let herself fall into it, I'm going to say, and everything worked out for her. And I have this thing of,
Yeah.
everything's going to be fine, everything's going to work out. It's, it is what it is, and we'll figure it out. So I do have a tendency to find ways to sit in that, but I want to know how to intentionally sit in that. And I was
Hmm.
wondering if you could tell me more about that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I look at it as if like vibration is the like the rapid back and forth motion of something, right? Something that's taking an action or making an action, making a movement of some kind. And then frequency is the measurement of how many cycles that motion can occur in 1 second. So with the vibration, it's like the vibration is the action that I'm performing, and the frequency is the signal that I'm putting out because of it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Logically, that makes sense. My thing is
Okay.
like, okay, how do I do that as a
How
human?
do you how do you
I
apply it?
understand it
Yeah.
mechanically,
Yeah.
I've got an engineering brain. I know how it works and, electronics and cars and like, yeah. But I'm like,
Yeah.
in the human body, how did like this just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. So your internal frequency, the frequency that you're putting out is like your emotional signal to the world. It's like your signal that you're putting out to the whole world, right? And ultimately, you've heard the term like your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So when I'm doing the work that I need to do as Ryan and I'm refining myself, becoming better, improving myself, becoming more self-aware, my work in those things is my vibration. Naturally, the signal that I'm putting out because of the person I'm becoming gets stronger. So the
Correct. Yeah.
people who would need to feel or are looking for that frequency are naturally going to be attracted to me. The people who are not looking for that frequency or actually repulsed by it, and I say repulsed not in like a negative way. I'm saying like when you touch two batteries together or
Mm.
two magnets together, right? They repulse each other if they're on the negative or the positive spectrum. You have to do like a, but it really comes down to physics, the idea of physics. So
Yep.
when you're doing the thing that speaks to your soul, when you're doing the thing that grows you as an individual, when you're doing the thing that gives you meaning and purpose, and you feel is the reason, that God put you here on the planet, you are connecting to the source of that frequency. And as you take action or create vibration, right?
Mm.
As you take action in yourself, whether you're reading books to align your mind with your body, whether you're going to the gym to align your body with everything else, whether you're focusing on your relationships, your friendships, romantic, familial, those actions that you're taking are going to make that frequency stronger and stronger. And it's going to make the right people attracted to you and the proverbial wrong people not want to be around you. Well, look, I just made balloons
You made
happen somehow.
balloons. Look at that.
The stars are aligning, the
Yeah.
balloons giving me a
Yeah.
little celebration. So, like, a man's energy either brings safety or instability to the room. That makes sense. Like
That
you're
makes
you're
total sense.
as a
Yeah.
man, you're bringing one of those two things to the situation.
Yeah. Always.
Yeah. So, do you want to be the intentional aware person who's bringing safety, or are you going to be the person who's pinballing all over the place and bringing instability? And
So
I'll tell
how,
you right now,
sorry, go.
I was
I'm
going to say, I'll
sorry.
tell you right now, no woman wants the
No.
unstable guy.
No, they don't. No. They
No,
will
they want
repel
the one that
against it.
makes them feel safe. That's right. That's right. They want the one that will make them feel safe in all of those aspects, right? Financially, romantically, intellectually, safe to talk about emotions, uh, physically safe, all of those things.
So how do
And if
you
they're, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
how do you know when you're in the right frequency then? Like how do you know that you're in that right, like you're tuned correctly? Like I'm gonna use the analogy like a guitar. How do you know when that
Yeah.
guitar is tuned, like yourself, that you're tuned properly, that you're on the
So
right
how,
path?
yeah. So how I measure it is with what's called the flow state. And how I identify it is, we have a different electromagnetic frequency that our heart naturally puts out, right? We
Yeah.
we don't control that frequency. It
No.
just fires, 60 beats a minute,
It just
hopefully.
keeps
Hopefully it's and it just goes.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
just keeps
and it
going.
just
Yeah.
fires and it just puts it out. And we can literally measure it. As a paramedic, I can put leads on you and I can look at an EKG and I can measure the
Yeah.
frequency that your heart is putting out. Our brain is the other thing that puts out an electromagnetic frequency, right? But this one we actually get to control. We get to
Yeah.
control a lot more. We can control it by wiring neurons that allow us to learn new things. Like when I went to paramedic school, I learned all the stuff that had to deal with that. When we go
Well,
to,
right
fire
right
academy,
now we're doing it. We're firing different neurons. I'm
right?
learning new things. You're learning new things. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Right. We're firing it and then we're wiring it, right? Like
Mm.
once we fire that thing, it becomes wired. And we do that for good and bad. So like our past traumas, if we have something that neuron is tied to this neuron, it was already fired once and now it's wired. And so now that connection point is there. So anytime we revisit that little bit of trauma or think about that thing, it goes right back down that pathway that we've created. The trick is creating a new pathway because your neurons are going to take the pathway of least resistance, right? Or the one that it's familiar with. But if we can cognizantly and consciously make new connections, we can reroute that. And ultimately, our brain will it'll erase that old pathway. And then that trauma pathway won't even be there anymore. But to answer your question, I find myself like when my heart frequency and my mind frequency are in alignment, I'm in what's called a flow state, and time becomes inconsequential. I completely lose track of time.
How often are
It's
you
that
in
whole
that?
thing.
How often do you find yourself in that?
I find myself in it often when I'm at work running calls, EMS calls, fire
Yeah.
calls, things like that, because I'm in the moment and I could be on a fire scene for like 4 hours and not even feel like I've been there for 15 minutes. And the same goes for like being at home, spending time with people you love. Time flies when you're having fun, right? When you're on shift, sometimes it just drags. And then when you're off shift, your off duty days go by so quick because you're in the right arena where you're in a flow state with the people that you love and you're making the connections with the people that you love.
So for example, I take my wife's situation where she was had a lot of things going on and a bit, quite unhappy, especially around work, not because of the people at work, but because of just the actions that she was doing every day at work was very
Right.
uninspired.
Right.
So she was at a
She
very
wasn't
place
she
where she
wasn't
was not,
connecting.
yeah, she was not
She
in a
wasn't
very
connecting
place
to
of
the
good
work.
vibration. Yeah, she was not in a very good
Yeah.
vibrational situation. From that
So let me
situation
ask you
there,
this real
yeah, go
quick.
ahead.
She feels stifled, frustrated, taken for granted, not seen?
A couple of them. She was frustrated.
Okay.
She
Yeah.
was, it was probably the most frustrated. It was more of she loved the people that she was working with. She enjoyed that side. She's an event manager, so she didn't have any creativity. She wasn't versus what
She
she's
felt
doing now.
stifled.
Yeah, she felt stifled. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you're actively working on your vibration as an individual and you're trying to put out a frequency, like, and that frequency is getting blocked, you feel stifled. And that environment no longer is rewarding to you. And so, like, for example, when I was working for an organization, well, when I was working for a fire department organization and I was feeling very stifled, was trying to contribute my knowledge, my skills, my talent to that place. And they didn't want it. They made it very clear that they didn't want it, that they weren't having it, that they were stifling my efforts. And so I was like meeting a ceiling, right? So what I
Yeah.
did was I just stepped aside. I just stepped aside and kept going. So I took all that energy and I wrote a book. I started a coaching group. I did a
And that's
podcast.
that's when you
You
and
know
I
what I mean?
first met.
And exactly. And that, so once I was able to take my vibration and put it towards something that was actually making me feel like I was producing something, like my signal was being received, then it was super rewarding,
So how do you
you know?
how'd you do that while you were in that still in that stifling place? Because I know there's so many people out there and that are in
Yeah.
that are in that like that's where my wife was at. She was in that like and so she had no outside of work like was just so because she I guess like you could put it on that stifle. And again, I'm gonna put it because a lot of people listening will probably know her and know where she worked and all that. She loved the people. She loved it was just the execution of what she was doing just wasn't aligned with her. It didn't meet that frequency. Um,
Right.
and so it wasn't,
So,
yeah, and so she'd come out of work and just be completely drained and wouldn't have the energy. Going back to what we were talking about in the beginning, didn't have the energy to
right.
be able to actually do like focus on anything that would actually then line up with her frequency. Because I was
Right.
obviously trying to coach, like trying to, get her to do different things that would line that up. And yeah, I mean, we'd go on holidays and I remember we went on the second holiday of the year and she was like, I really don't want to go back to work. I've been in Hawaii for two
Yeah.
weeks and it's like, I just don't want
Right.
to go anywhere. I want to just like, no, like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was kind of a
That
big
totally
part of
makes
the
sense.
turning point. Yeah.
Yeah, it totally
So
makes sense
yeah, go ahead.
because she was spending time with you, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So
she was
the
that
frequency was in
vibration.
line. Yeah.
There it is. Your frequencies were in alignment, right? And so that feels great to be around that. But when you're in an environment where you don't have that, you kind of have to create your own receiver. Does that make
So
sense?
how do you do that when you're in that deep, like you're in that, like your frequency is so far off that like, again, it's
I
almost in that
typically would,
you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel out of
right.
it,
I
besides
typically would
burning
go
everything
in,
down.
yeah, I would typically go into like a task-based orientation, a task-based mentality. So I didn't want to be particularly busy at work. I wanted to be productive. So when I was at work, I would pick a specific project that would make me feel like that was, first of all, measurable. So, for example, this shift, I'm going to clean out the refrigerators, something simple, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be grandiose, something simple. So let's say this shift, I'm going to clean out the fridges. I'm going to do that by taking these steps. And so, like, if I put that in my mind of like the vibration and the energy that I'm going to put out is going to be geared towards that thing. And then once I complete that thing, it's measurable for me. And
Yeah.
does that make sense? And that
Kind of
helps me,
task oriented.
yeah, check the proverbial box, validating my effort in even the small ways. And that helps you cope. If
Yeah.
you're stuck in a situation where you particularly can't leave, or else you might lose your seniority, your pension, all the stuff. And there comes a point where maybe your mental health is worth leaving that place because ultimately it's your life,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like let's say you're very close to retirement or whatever, you don't want to give all that up, right? You've got to kind of push through, get to the finish line, and then you can reap your rewards and find your frequency being validated elsewhere,
Yeah.
right? Like you are not just what you do for a living.
That's
And
very
I feel
true.
like I feel like
Very
the
true.
identity of that, especially with police and fire,
Yeah.
I feel like that we tend to lose ourselves a lot within our careers.
I'd say probably
Right.
90% of
Yes, it's a
service-based people lose who
huge
they actually are, and they
problem.
think they are what they do.
Huge problem. Yeah. So we have a lot of guys who have like firefighter tattoos, and every time they are off duty, they're wearing a firefighter shirt to let everybody know that they're a firefighter. I don't do that. Like, I don't have any tattoos, first of all, but I don't wear t-shirts on my off-duty days that are like, I fight what you fear or any of that bull crap. Like to me, it's very cringy. To me, it's a sign that that person struggles to have identity outside of their job.
Yeah,
And that to me
it shows
is
you haven't
dangerous.
figured out who you are. You haven't figured out who you
Yes.
are as you yet. Which
Yeah.
I
And
can put
that
my
to me
hand
is
up and say
dangerous.
that's who I like when I was a cop and when I left the police and that I had a massive identity crisis on it all
Yeah.
because
I feel like we all do
I
it
didn't
to
learn
some
any of
level.
that. Well, you have
Yeah.
to learn from it. You've
Yeah.
got to. You don't go into these service-based roles, firefighter, police, especially, without identifying as it in the initial stages in the early days, because
100%.
you wouldn't fight
100%,
that
dude.
hard to pass all the fitness tests and do all the jumping
Yes.
through all the hoops that you have to go through if you
To
didn't
earn
have
it.
that. Yeah, to
Yeah.
earn it.
To
Yeah.
earn it is such a hard gauntlet to go through. It is
Oh,
so hard. And you feel proud that
yeah.
you did it, and you got the call. And it really is who we are at the heart of us. We are people who want to serve other people. Now, can we do that in multiple different ways? Absolutely. Like fighting fire and being a paramedic is not the only way that I can serve people. It's a way I can serve people in that specific way, but it's not the only way that I can serve people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's interesting all that the frequency and the energy side of things is it's something that since I left law enforcement and I got because it is very a lot of men especially will look at it and even service-based people will look at it and go it's very woo-woo and it's like it
You
is
know,
but
they
it's
they
actually good
they
like
say that, but it's actually science. It's more science
scientific
based.
yeah it is actually
It is literally measurable. You can
yeah
measure your brain waves. You can measure your heart frequency. You can measure your heart electrocardiogram. You can
yeah.
measure these things. You can see it on
You
paper.
can. It's interesting because I'm right, like as I've gone on this journey of learning about myself, which is what I put it at, since leaving law enforcement. It's very much around lining up with those things that and attracting those things that align with me, which is lining up with that frequency, is lining up with the putting out that frequency to attract back similar things. And when I'm in those groups, like for example, you and I meeting. That's what it was. It was me in that time putting out those frequencies to, power of our story. It just literally just putting out the
Yes.
thing to people and that. And I think, as I
Yeah.
talk through this, I'm like, because here in New Zealand, it's a complete different frequency to the US
Right.
and the people and the entrepreneurs and the business people and the coaching people and all the different the conversations that you have here are completely different to like when I come back to the US and I talk with people. And I've always
Yeah.
wondered why, but it's just clicked in me that like I'm like I've known like New Zealand has this tall poppy syndrome. They don't want to stick their heads up high. They don't want to there's also 2 degrees of separation. There's only 5 million people in the country, so it's somebody will know
Right.
somebody that knows someone that knows you. And so there's a few different aspects, but it's that frequency is completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of truth to that location wise as well, which
Mm.
is why when people leave a certain area that they maybe grew up in and go to a different place, they don't fit in because their frequency
Yeah.
is different. What they're putting out is different. And it takes a
Mm.
while to assimilate. Maybe they won't ever assimilate at all. But, I'm actually talking to a client right now who is looking for a romantic partner and they are now understanding, and what I'm working with them on is that you have to, like, your internal frequency is your emotional signal to the world, right? Like I
Yes.
said, but you don't attract what you want. And I know I touched on this a little bit last time we talked. You attract what you are.
Yes.
Okay. So like you don't get to be the one who's like, I really want to date a girl who doesn't smoke.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
you are out of alignment from the start. You are
Yeah.
out of alignment from the start. If you can tell me your ideal mate and your ideal mate goes to the gym, reads books, loves their family, has a degree of spirituality, and you don't go to the gym, read books, you hate your family, if you aren't in alignment in that, you're never going to attract that person.
Yes.
You have to become the thing that you want. like internally and externally. I don't get to say that, I want a romantic partner that doesn't do drugs, doesn't drink, and doesn't sleep around, and then go do those things. Like I don't
No,
get that.
you don't get to
That
have that. No.
I'm out of alignment, and that's a weird entitlement to think that you can sit there and smoke a cigarette and then ask for someone to come into your life who doesn't smoke. You're out of alignment.
Yeah.
Like your frequency is dull. It's
Yeah.
not
Like it's just like, it's also similarly to the person who's miserable in their job, but then wants to find a job that they love, but they're not really willing to work on why they're miserable in the first place.
right. You got to take inventory.
Yeah.
You got to take a personal inventory, right? Where am I at? What is it that I'm doing? I know that I want this thing, or like promotion, let's say. I know I want this promotion and I haven't been able to get it. What is it that I need to do to get that thing? And is it worth it? Am I going to have to sacrifice my morals? Am I going to have to sacrifice my integrity? Am I going to have to go against my principles to get this promotion? If I am, it's not worth it to me. That's not worth it. So you really do have to do that internal assessment and like inventory of, first of all, what is it that I want? And then it's like, am I willing to become the person that I need to become to get that thing? And if the answer is no, then look
There's
for a
your
different
answer.
thing.
Exactly.
There it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there it is. If it's like, no, I'm not going to do that, then cool, sweet, exit left,
Right.
which is, yeah. And that's a hard thing to do, man. Like that's,
It is the hardest thing to do. The self in like the
oh,
accountability, the self inventory, it is the hardest thing to do,
and
which is why nobody
a
does it.
step away from things that you've said that you want for so long. Like,
Yeah.
that's like, that can be, it's one of the reasons I don't do the law enforcement stuff, coaching stuff anymore, is because things
Right.
weren't lining up with and for a while I tried to figure out why it was that I struggled or kept bouncing back to it. Uh,
Yeah.
and
That's funny you mentioned that.
couldn't fully release it.
Yeah.
Even up until just recently, even like there'd be times where I'd be like, "Oh, I'll go back to coaching people to get into the police force," and it's like,
Yeah.
"No, Chris, you stepped away from that." And like I was sitting down actually
Yeah.
having a conversation with my wife, and I was like, "She's like, Chris, it didn't line up with your values anymore. You started to see things in police
Right.
departments that you didn't want to see, and you actually
Yes.
saw them when I came back to the U.S. You actually saw things, and your values didn't line up with that anymore, and so."
Right.
And it hit me so hard without me knowing that it was hitting me that I was like that I pulled the ripcord on it
Yeah.
without really realizing why I pulled the ripcord on it because I didn't do that
Yeah.
work before I pulled the ripcord. And it's
Because you weren't in
interesting. Yeah.
alignment.
Yeah, I wasn't in alignment with it. And it was like,
Yeah.
yeah. But then once you
Because you
realize
grew.
why, yeah, I grew out of it and
Right.
it wasn't growing with me because obviously,
Right.
it is what it is. But yeah,
Yeah.
that frequency of stuff, going back to that, it was like, yeah, it didn't align anymore. And I've pushed it and I was forcing it for so long. Going,
Yes.
no, it will work. And it's like, and I was
It,
miserable and like
yeah.
chaos
There
everywhere and like,
and there goes your energy. Yeah.
emotions up and down all the time because
Yeah.
I wasn't in line with it. It's
Yeah.
interesting having like actually breaking it all down and looking at it that way. Like,
Yeah. It's interesting you brought up your podcast because, or your coaching and podcast and whatnot, because I changed and revamped mine. Because initially mine was the Ignited Firefighter podcast, right?
yes,
And
that's right. Yeah.
I was trying to look for things that I was on this journey myself where I was like looking for the things that I could shore up in myself as a firefighter paramedic to serve others better. And then I started learning all these things about physical fitness, nutrition, how to balance work and home and this and that and all of these things. And I was like, I should make this available to the firefighter community. So that's when I started the Ignited Firefighter podcast. And it got some good traction for a while and this and that. And but the interesting part was as I grew, that didn't grow with me. And I
Exactly
had
happened to me too.
yeah. So I had to, so I rebranded. I ditched the Ignited Firefighter podcast. I switched it to the Forged by Fire podcast, which is now geared towards anybody, not just firefighters, right?
Mm.
Because I was learning that my whole mission and goal with the Ignited Firefighter podcast was to help people become the firefighter they would want responding to their incident. Become the firefighter you would want on your crew, right? Problem was there's so much ego that we all already think we're the firefighter we would want on our crew. Like even the most dirtbag guy of us is like, yeah, I'd want me on my crew. Like, so there's no growth there. There's nothing that until you understand that you can always improve something, or you're never going to grow. And
Yeah.
that was the wall I was running into.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Most of the guys who are at that level or ready to grow at the level that you wanted to help them out with normally have left.
yeah, yes, yes, and they have moved on to something better for
Yeah.
themselves, right? Like all the people that I know, and I'm not bashing the fire service, but it is a trend that I have seen that all the people I know who have left the fire service are happier
Yeah, it's sad.
because they put in their time, they loved their career, and then now they're finding things that bring them joy outside of that. And they're like,
Yeah.
wow, this is like a second life, a second wind. And it's kind of sad
Yeah,
because I,
majority of them are it is like that. I know a
yeah,
handful of law enforcement around the world that are like that are still law enforcement, and the only reason
yeah,
is that they've done like you have with fire. They've
right.
disconnected it from their identity. That's not what they are. It's just how they pay their bills.
Yeah, yeah. But you know
It's
what?
how
And
they
it's
pay
and
their
it's
bills, and they enjoy doing it.
I love my job. I love my job as a firefighter paramedic. I'm gonna go out on a little bit of a arrogant branch here and say that I'm very good at it.
Well, you wouldn't be in it 20
But
years if you weren't good at it.
I'm
You
confident.
hope.
I'm confident in it. How's that? How's that?
Yeah,
But I love it. I love doing it. I love serving people in that capacity. Oftentimes the bureaucracy is what gets us.
100%
It's the
leadership, man.
bureaucracy
If I bring
that
it into
gets
the
us.
police side of things, when I was running around the US delivering mental wellness stuff for police departments, or just talking with departments around it, and even running the Fight the Burnout podcast prior to this one, it was so true. Like, the people that I would line up with and the departments that I would line up with were the ones that the leadership was next level. And like, there's
Mhm.
a handful of departments that even when I thought about going back to law enforcement and moving to the US and joining law enforcement, I went down the road of talking to people around what they could pay me and things like that because I got real close to applying for a couple of departments in Arizona there actually, and there's only
Nice.
a handful of them because of the leadership, because I had interviewed the chiefs and I had interviewed
Yeah.
the bosses and I had actually sat down with them, and again that frequency lined up, and it was
Yeah.
like I can get behind these guys. The problem is that leadership changes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's crazy. It's
um,
crazy. Everybody's trying to climb that mountain,
yeah,
and
it
some people are
is.
willing to do whatever it takes if it,
And some people are
for good or
designed to be
bad.
leaders. I think that's the thing is some people are designed to be leaders and some people are not and they shouldn't be.
Agreed. 100% agree with you.
But they get promoted
Yeah.
because they're good at their job. Just because you're good at your
Or
job doesn't
maybe
mean you can lead
it's
people.
exactly. That's so true. That's so true. Just because you're a good firefighter doesn't mean you're going to be a good captain.
Because being
And
a
just
good
because
captain
you're
doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually doing the job all the time. You're actually looking at the bigger picture, watching what people are doing, looking at people's strengths, weaknesses, helping them grow on their
exactly.
weaknesses and helping them lean into their strengths. Yeah.
Exactly. And then how many times have we seen people get promoted past their capacity? And what
Yeah.
happens to them? They freak out and they've completely changed and they're always stressed and they don't because they're not operating within their sphere.
They're not
They're
in that
they're pushed they're
frequency. They're
pushed.
not in that
Yeah, yeah.
frequency and
They're
that
totally out of
yeah.
alignment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that they wouldn't eventually get there, but you get thrown into the deep end too quickly and you drown.
Right. It's like the Peter principle, right? We promote people past their point of effectiveness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, ooh, it's
Yeah,
dangerous. But
exactly. Ryan, I've seen some of your posts recently around emotions.
mm,
I'd love to hear
yeah.
more about that. I'd love to hear about
Okay.
like I haven't watched a whole lot of them. I've seen them. I will put my hand up and say I haven't watched them because normally it's at work or there's a moment where I just taking a break away from work and I'm kind of
Right.
doom scrolling and I see it there and I can see the title and I'm like
Yeah.
emotions. I was like and this morning even I'm gonna say when I was on the shitter like us men do, we sit there and scroll through Instagram
Yeah.
and Facebook and
Yeah.
I saw another one. I was like I'm gonna ask Ryan like what's going on with like where did this come from, and tell
Yeah.
me a little bit about kind of and the audience about what kind of what's inspired it and what you've been talking about.
So through my speaking and writing and all of these things, one of the things that I've come to learn that has stifled us as men, but also as humans, is our inability to regulate our emotions, right?
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of Stoicism,
Yep.
right? Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, all of it. Yeah, exactly, right? And so a lot of people think that Stoicism means that you don't have emotions or that you don't feel anything.
It's not
And
true
that
at
is the
all.
exact opposite. That is
Yeah.
literally the opposite of what Stoicism is. Stoicism means that you feel your feelings, you understand them, and utilize them for the betterment of yourself and humanity.
and they don't
That's what
control
it is.
you. You control you.
And
You're in control of them.
that's exactly right. And the first step of being able to do that is being aware of what those emotions are indicators of. And so I started a project a couple months back called Emotions as Indicators. And I have a note on my computer that I just keep adding to because I just keep thinking of new ones. Okay. And I've got a whole like list. I can go through a couple of them here if you want.
Yeah,
The first three that I put out on social media, I'm doing a series. I'm just going through them all. I'm just going through
cool,
all the
man.
ones that I have, and I've got it on a highlight reel on my Instagram page. So if you go to my Instagram page, you'll see them all in that highlight reel
Perfect.
titled Emotion.
Cool. I
But
now know where I can go find them and actually watch them.
yeah, yeah, the first one was the one that was my biggest Achilles heel, anger.
That's
It
so
was,
true for so many men. Like that was
yeah,
mine as well. I used to, when I was younger,
yeah,
say I've got an anger problem and I'm okay with it.
yeah. And it hindered my relationships. It kept people away from me. I was continually in a mad, angry state. And it was weird because it was one of those self-fulfilling prophecies, right? I was mad that I didn't have or go on dates and that I didn't have a lot of friends. And that made me mad. And I didn't understand why. And then I just continue to be mad. And it's like, bro, nobody wants to be around you because you're angry all the
Yeah.
time. You're
That
you're
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 that
putting out
you're
this
that grumpy little man. Like, what the hell's going on here?
100%, dude. I'm like always got this face, right? I wonder why nobody wants to be around me.
Look like a troll all
But
the
yeah,
time.
so that yeah. So that was the first emotion that I explored. And I read the book by Thick, what is his name? Thich Nhat Hanh. He's like the monk, the Taoist monk
Yeah, the
who wrote a
name
book on anger.
it rings a bell. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And reading that book totally changed my life, and it allowed me to understand my anger and use it as a tool to leverage progress. Rather than being stifled in my anger and my emotions, I was able to leverage it to move forward and to build. And so I needed to ultimately identify what anger was an indicator of. Because all of our
Yes.
emotions are a tool, right? Every single emotion that we feel as humans is an indicator that is trying to tell us something. And that
Yes.
is at the heart of this project that I'm working on. And so the first one I shared was anger. I identified that anger is an indicator that a boundary has been crossed.
Yes.
This is the book right here. Oh, there it is. Anger. Can you see that?
Oh, yes. Yes. Can. Yeah.
Thick
Yeah.
that hand. Anger is an indicator that boundary has been crossed.
Yeah.
Once I identify that truth, then I can take a step back and think, what can I do about it? Okay, did I communicate the boundary to that person? If not, then that's on me, and I don't have the right to be angry at them. If I've created what's called a covert contract, so like if I come home and I'm continually pissed at my kids for not taking out the garbage, even though I've never communicated to them that, hey, when I come home, I expect the garbage to be taken out. If I've never communicated that, but I'm continually angry at them for it, then I'm just an asshole.
Yeah. That's on you.
That's on me.
Yeah.
That's not fair to them because I didn't communicate that expectation to
Yeah.
them. The same goes for leadership, right? If I'm not communicating that expectation, I don't have the right to be mad at my people when they don't meet it.
Yeah.
That's a covert contract. So I have to be able to A, establish the boundary, and B, communicate it clearly. And
Yes.
then if people keep crossing that boundary, well, then guess what? I'm either going to cut you out of my life or I'm going to have to reevaluate the boundary and think, am I being too stringent? Is this on me? Right? This is where the self introspection comes from.
Yes.
So now when I feel angry, I understand that it's an indicator that a boundary's been crossed. And I spend maybe like 10 seconds being actually angry
Yeah.
because
And then
now
you
I
let
know
it
that,
go.
oh, hold on. And then I can ask my boys or my kids
It,
or my crewmate, what it
how'd you come
was.
to how'd you come to the realization that it was the boundary being crossed?
There was a lot of self introspection. I had to identify the source of my anger. And I realized that the source of my personal anger was stemming from a sense of justice. Like that thing was not right. Well, what made it not right? Well, he did that thing and he shouldn't have done that thing. Well, what does that mean? Oh, well, he crossed a boundary.
It's interesting that you got to that realization that in NLP there's a technique called emotional release technique.
Hmm.
And what it is actually
Yeah,
taking you back.
ERT.
Yeah, ERT, yeah. It's taking you back to the core of when that emotion first started. And so for me, for
Yeah.
anger, it was actually at like 2 years old, my dad leaving to go to chiropractic school and him coming into my bedroom. And like I can visualize the whole thing. Like I went back in that kind of that almost hypnotic state. I went back and from a safe place, saw myself sitting on the bed with a blue blanket on the bed, and dark room. My dad coming in and telling me that that he was leaving and that he'd be back on the weekend. The very
Yeah.
first time they went off to chiropractic school, and me getting angry because I didn't voice what I wanted to. I didn't say don't go. And
Right.
that's where my anger comes from, not communicating.
Right.
So now if I
So
start
now
to
you
get
know,
angry, I go, okay, what am I not
what
communicating?
am I not communicating? Exactly. Exactly. And that is at the heart of Stoicism. That is
Yeah,
at the heart of it.
yeah,
So I'll share a couple of more with
yeah.
you
Go. That'd
that I
be.
did. I think I've got a list of 25 or 26 now
Oh wow.
that I'm working on. Most of them are what would be called negative emotions, right? Which I kind of don't like that term. Emotions are what they are. They're
We
merely
have to have
indicators or
them.
tools to let you know something has happened for good or bad. So I don't like to
Before you jump
demonize
into
the
the
emotion.
second one, that same coach that I was talking about before, I was having some stuff going on, emotions and stuff like that, and like she started talking to me. She's like, "Well, Chris, have you actually let yourself go through the emotional release?"
Yes.
And
I'm talking to a client of mine right now about that thing.
yeah.
Keep going.
And she was like, Chris, so many people think it takes forever to actually, go through the emotional cycle and release it. She's like, Chris, if you
Yes.
actually go through it when you first experience it, it takes you 90 seconds.
Yes.
Like
Dude, you're speaking my language.
you allow yourself 90
Yes.
seconds to go through it and feel it, it won't control you anymore. But you have to let
Yeah.
yourself actually feel it. And she's like, the problem is that what we do is we stuff it away, and then it takes us longer and longer and longer and longer to
Yes.
actually release it and let it go and let that
Yeah.
situation of that emotion go. And I
I just
remember,
read that study. I
yeah,
just read that.
and after she said that, I was like, okay. And it actually helped me when my grandma passed away a couple years ago. It hit me a lot harder than I thought it would, and
Yeah.
I was able to go through it because I just kept telling myself, feel this for 90 seconds. It's okay to feel this for 90
Yeah.
seconds. Just let it
It's
go. And
okay to feel it.
as guys, we try and stuff everything away,
We
and like,
do,
no, we'll
man.
just smash through it. We'll just barrel through
I'm
that
just
wall.
gonna bury it. I'm
Yeah,
just
I'm
gonna
just gonna
bury it
bury it
deep
and barrel through the
under
wall. And so I
energy
let
drinks,
myself just
caffeine,
have
and
those,
yeah.
yeah, while I was in the States, just let myself have those 90-second, like, kind of things. And the things that I didn't do that 90-second on, those 90-second things on, oh, did they come out like real hardcore, real quick, man.
Yeah.
Some
Well,
of
and
it
they
was
bleed
around
over
my
to
mom,
everything
and that,
else.
yeah, some of them were
It
around my
bleeds
mom, and
over.
I ended up, my wife was like, I've never heard you like yell at your mom and because the whole side story. My mom and I ended up having to like go into it because of me not feeling supported by her, and that anger came back out hard. And like my wife's like, I've never heard you like so angry ever, and
Yeah. Yeah.
we've been together like 20 years, and it's because I
Yeah.
didn't actually apply
Yes.
that 90 seconds to that situation
Yes.
and actually communicate what I was needing. I was just expecting an expectation from her because that's what I'd always known, but she was going through her own stuff in a different way. It's
Crazy. 90 seconds. So
90 seconds.
I'm talking to a client of mine right now about this exact thing because they're struggling moving forward because they're continually
Yeah.
choosing to relive the thing
Mhm.
because it's so layered. They grew up in an environment where they weren't allowed to feel emotions. Everything's fine, you're good, everything's happy, and we're all happy, and everything's fine and superficial. So they grew up in an environment where they weren't allowed to actually express emotions. So what did they do? They stuffed them down, and then they could never get over it. And it's just like an infection. Like an infection on your hangnail can turn your whole body septic and
Mhm.
kill you. You have to get it out.
Yep.
You have to get it out. Take that 90 seconds, cry, 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 and like have the tears come out, the snot, the blubbering, the slobbering, have it all. You have to get it all out, then you can move forward. If
Yep.
you move forward without getting it all out, you're leaving that little infection in your body. And guess what? That infection is going to grow over time and it's going to bleed to all different systems in your body. It's going to bleed to all your relationships, all the thing. You have to get it out. Then you can move forward. That's so
Yep.
crazy. And to tie along with what it was that this person's dealing with, it's a matter of depression
Yep.
because they're upset because something happened and they feel they can't move forward.
Yep.
But they keep choosing to revisit the thing
Instead of
instead of,
releasing it,
yes.
instead of feeling it
So
and releasing it.
yes. So the emotion tied to that is depression, right? And depression to me is an indicator that you're living in the past.
Yeah. It is. Depression
Yeah.
is the past.
You're suffering for something that's happened again and again and again.
Yeah.
Instead of understanding that you're living right now, you got to move forward.
It happened, and you can't live in those what ifs anymore.
Yeah. My mom lost her dad when I was 4. I'm 44. So this was 40 years ago. I lost my grandpa. Okay. I loved my grandpa. I have very vivid memories of him, even though I was 4. He taught me how to do pull-ups, taught me, he had lost a piece of his thumb on a bandsaw when a drunk guy came to work in it. He pushed him into a bandsaw, but he would like pinch me a little bit with it and it would always freak me out. I just have these weird memories, but I loved the guy. He was pinnacle of like masculine example in my life. He was a World War II veteran, just heroic stories of the greatest generation, all that stuff. Loving grandfather, loving father. My mom still has a difficult time talking about him
Mm,
because she has not learned to go through it all the way. She'll
yeah.
stifle it. She just doesn't want
Yeah.
to talk about her dad or my grandpa. And I'm like, I love talking about grandpa. I love it. My own father died about 11 years ago. I love talking about my father.
And isn't death an interesting thing? Like talking about that with the past. You go to
Yeah.
funerals. I went to my wife's best friend's dad passed away recently, kind of abruptly and out of the blue. We were at the funeral, and it was like all these people, your whole life comes down into like, an hour of time, people telling stories. But I always say, like, my wife and I talk about like our funerals, and she keeps saying, she's like, we're both gonna die at the same time, so we're not gonna have each other's funerals, so we're not gonna have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm like, if I die before you, I was like, and I most likely will because I do dumb shit.
I'm a little more risky.
A little bit more risky, you know. I'm like, promise me it will be a celebration. Yes, there will be
Oh, yeah.
tears. Like, I want people to have
Right.
tears, but it's a celebration of my life. It's a
Yeah.
party. I want to have a big fuck off party
Yeah, dude.
celebrating my life because that's what it is. It's about celebrating my life. Yes, you can be sad that I'm
Yeah.
gone, that you won't be able to celebrate more experiences with me, but
Right.
celebrate the experiences that you had because that way, if you're celebrating, there's no depression.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Depression can't live right now. Depression lives in the past. So if
Yeah.
you're celebrating right now, if we're talking about great things about the jokes my dad would make or like the times he would just laugh inappropriately was hilarious. Like it was the most inappropriate time to laugh, but he would be the one laughing and he didn't care. And I love it. And I look back at that and I'm like, yeah, I miss that, but I have that memory in a good way. I'm not living in the past. I'm bringing that joy forward, right?
And with that, every memory can be shifted to that way as well.
Yes. 100%.
You can have a
100%.
bad experience, and if you shift the memory and the focus and the language around it, of this has taught me a lesson, this is what, shifting it to that positive side, you'll no longer end up in that that depressed state anymore either, because you're no longer seeing it in a
Right.
dark way.
You're not living there. Yeah, you're living
Yeah,
here right now.
yeah, right
Yeah.
now,
So
yeah.
give me I'll let you pick the next emotion and I'll go through my list and see what's on there.
I wanna, the one that pops up in this because I used to, and I have thoughts on where it comes from. So I'm interested in yours is anxiety.
Okay. So to me, that's the other side of the depression coin, right? To me, anxiety is an indicator that you're living in the future.
Very true.
If depression is the indicator that you're living in the past, anxiety is the indicator that you're living in the future. You're not living right now. You're living in the
Yeah.
future where things are uncertain. I don't know what's going to happen. Am I
What could?
prepared? What could? Yeah, let's what if all day. What if, what if, what if? If I were to what if as a fireman, like I could what if all day, right? But then I would exhaust myself training for every scenario. Like, is it possible that I could walk outside my house and get struck by lightning? Yes. But do I still go outside? Yes, I
Yeah.
do. Like the statistics on car accidents are astronomical when it comes to airplane accidents. But yet people are more afraid to fly than they are to drive. And it's like, how is it that you can operate without fear and anxiety driving around your city, but you have fear and anxiety about flying? Because statistically, it's
Yeah.
astronomically safer, right?
Yeah.
It's just one of those illogical things. And,
It's also
and fear,
people not understanding. It can be, because I don't understand this, I fear it.
yeah, exactly. And if you're living right here in the moment, it doesn't give power to the future,
Mm.
right? Can I plan? Like goal setting, right? Goal setting lives in the future, and that's good. But I've set that pin on the map, and that doesn't mean I get to neglect my feet when I walk towards it.
Well, you're not going to get to
Right?
that goal if you don't take action right now.
Exactly. So, like, I can plan for things all day, but if I'm not willing to take action, if I'm not willing to establish my vibration, right, in that
Mm.
thing, then the frequency I'm putting out is going to be that of anxiety, is
Yeah.
fear, right?
My add to anxiety is, well, you just said it, fear. Anxiety is a
Yeah.
fear of something.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Most
I
people are anxious
feel
about something because they're afraid of something. For example, the planes. They're afraid. They fear the plane. And then if you ask why do you fear the plane, majority of people will be because they don't understand it. They don't
right.
understand how a plane stays in the air.
Yeah, to me, fear is an indicator that you're not prepared.
I'd agree.
You know, like if I'm tasked with giving a talk in church or to a group of people and I have not prepared for that talk and the day comes, I'm going to be a bit fearful of it.
You're gonna have a bit of
But if
anxiety
I,
around it, but
right, but if I've done my due diligence and if I know the topic and if I get to the point where I'm comfortable talking about the thing, everything will be fine.
it's interesting. I remember when, like during COVID, especially, there was a lot of talks around, lots of people have become anxious since that time and during that time.
Right. What's
And
going to happen? Yeah.
yeah, what's going to happen? The what ifs, the what ifs of things, and then anxious to leave the house and anxious to interact with people. And again, it's that whole fear of, the what ifs in the future, and instead of again being in the moment. But I remember having a conversation. I forget who it was with. It might have been that same coach. She and I talked about a lot of different things. But somebody mentioned to me and I don't know if it's true or not. So the audience don't take it as gospel. But that in the Chinese language there is no word for anxiety, so they feel no anxiety. Because if you're never told, and like nowadays, like you think about it, since in the last kind of 5 to 10 years, really, there's been so much talk and so much it's put out there, so much around depression, anxiety that. And now we have an epidemic of it. Everybody's like, "Oh, I've got anxiety. Oh, I'm depressed." And it's like, well, no, you're not depressed. You're just sad in the moment. You don't
Right.
have anxiety. You're just kind of a little stressed out about something.
Interesting. Yeah, I just actually I don't mean to undermine
No,
you, but I
go.
actually just looked it up and it said that the words related to it, like there are words that
That
relate to
relate
it.
to it,
Like,
but there isn't the actual word of anxiety
yeah,
in
that's what
society
I'm
now.
reading right now. It's like a concern or troubles, right?
And language is
Interesting.
so important because, when you put the meaning of anxiety onto something, oh my God, like anxiety is that kind of top tier, like, and I
Right.
do believe that there are people that are out there that are get so physically anxious that they cannot function.
Right. They have an attack, they have a mental their
Yeah.
body
Panic
starts to
attacks,
then
body actually reacts
yeah.
to it. And yes,
Yeah.
that's anxious, but then there's the people that use anxiety as a word when it's really just fear of something. It's just a trouble, it's just a concern.
Right. Well, here's the interesting part too, is like I look at my human body as a pet, right? It
Yeah.
is its own animal, and I'm just kind of living in it for a while. And as I train it, it will
Mm.
do what I want. It will obey
Hmm.
as I train it. But if I haven't trained it, it will do whatever it wants despite me.
Yeah.
So, and it has self-protections. There are protections that your body will do despite you. So, for
Yeah.
example, when you drink alcohol too much, what does your body do, right? You either throw it up, your body's like, get this shit out of me,
There's your
or
thumbs
you either
up.
throw it up. Yeah, right. Look at I did that. You throw it up, or your body ultimately passes out because it's like, we gotta knock this guy out. He's gonna
Yeah.
kill us.
Yeah.
Like it body will take
Your
care of
body
you
will do
despite.
what it can to survive.
Yes. So when you're facing like an anxiety attack or whatnot, your body's doing the same thing. You are creating this fear state, and your body will shut down because
Mm.
it's like, we are in a fear state. We shouldn't move. We should probably just pass out and not work.
A fight, flight, freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you can train that just like a muscle.
You can train it. That's why I
First
said
responders,
and train it.
we're perfect examples. When you first walk into academy, you are probably have a little bit of ego going on there, so it kind of pushes
Yeah.
past a lot of things. And we are a
Yeah.
special breed. Our brains are probably wired a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But with the first time you walk into for yourself, the first time you walk into that fire that you have, that you get thrown into, or the hot box, the
Yeah.
hot house, you're freaking out. I remember I went for fire service after I left the police, and they put the blacked out mask on you, and they send you into the house, that's not
Yep.
hot, but you're in full
Yep.
fire gear, so
Can't
it's
see
warm anyways. You
anything.
can't see anything, and you're feeling your way around. You're going through stuff, and then afterwards
Yeah.
they go, "Yeah, at training, this is going to be like 150 degrees in here, and you're going to be doing that as well, and things are going to be hot and shit like that." And instant, your mind
Yeah.
goes, "Oh crap!"
Yeah.
But because of training, I know how to
Yeah.
push past that. But in the very beginning,
Right.
and they train you how to do that, and then you end
Right.
up, instead of being fearful or anxious about it, you're actually going, "Oh yeah, I can do that. I've got lived experience. I've trained my body and
Right.
my mind to push through these and actually." know how to experience this.
Yes, even the best of us who seem naturally talented at these things, like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant,
Hmm.
they trained their bodies and minds to do the thing.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant was practicing, he was there at 5 a.m. Practice wasn't until 8.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Jordan would do
He's
a
there at
thousand free throws
5
before
a.m.
practice even started.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's my point. Like all these people that we look up to thinking like, oh, they're so lucky, they're just naturally gifted. No,
No,
no.
they put work
Jordan
in.
was cut from his high school team. He
Yeah.
didn't make his high school. He didn't even make his basketball team. Like,
Yeah.
it's astounding. I mean, you look at someone like Tom Brady too. He was like the what number draft, and
Yeah.
now he's
Well,
like
you look at
the
Purdy
fan.
and the 49ers. Purdy as well. Same
Yes.
thing. Mr.
Yeah.
Irrelevant.
It's not a matter of oh, you're just lucky or the hand you were dealt. No, it's training. You
Yeah.
train your body. You train your mind.
Some
You have to
people are
train
gifted a little bit more,
yourself
have a
for
little bit more gifting to
emotions.
it, but
There is some
yeah.
intuitiveness.
But at
You,
the same
unless
time,
you
you
don't
train.
unless you don't tap into it, you're never gonna reveal that intuitiveness.
Yeah.
So you still have to take that step towards that train.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's so true. Especially this day and age, we're all so focused on getting things now and we're not training on it. And we wonder why
Yeah.
everybody's so anxious and has depression and is
Yeah.
angry all the time.
Give it 6 weeks. Give it
Yeah,
6 weeks or 12 weeks and you'll be amazed. You'll be
yeah.
amazed what you can do in 6 to 12 weeks.
Yeah, no, it's cool what you're doing with that emotion side of things and helping, and just putting it out there on how to kind of work through it and figure out where they're stemming from, so that then you can use them to benefit you instead of them controlling you.
And the first step is always identifying it.
Yeah,
You have to identify the
take a
problem,
moment,
identify yeah. So
just
that's
taking
always
that
the first
breath.
step. So that's what I'm just doing. I'm doing like a 1 minute video for each emotion, and I'm like, hey, this is an indicator for this, and these are some ways we can mitigate it. See you next time. So,
I think the important thing is as well is realizing that every person's going to have a different indicator as well.
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, it can be like these are the ones that I'm sharing that I've identified for me. It may or may not speak to the people who see these videos, but I definitely think it's a good place to start.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Because again, a lot of people, there will be people out there that can relate to it. So that's awesome, man. I love that you're doing that.
Thanks. It's fun.
Talking to camera is fun as well.
That was one of my hardest things, man, doing the social media thing is like talking to the camera and my coach. Like every coach should have a coach, right?
Yes.
Everybody
Yeah.
should have a
Again,
coach.
going back to that relationship thing that you talked about, you have to, what you
Yeah.
want from people, you have to be able to you have to be doing yourself.
Yes. And it's interesting. Like the people I follow on social media, I follow them because I want to hear from them. I
Mhm.
want to hear what they have to say about the thing. One of the my most favorite new accounts that I'm following is Dr. Jessica Kriegel, and she hosts a podcast called what is it? Culture Leaders, and it's all about work culture and whatnot. And I'm like very interested in that,
Yeah,
right? Like
you
my
always have
master's
been.
degree, yeah, my master's degree is organizational leadership, specifically firefighter culture, organizational wise. But I love her account. She is always on there talking to the camera or talking to someone else, but at least recording it. And that's why I go there. And so I have to remind myself, I need to talk to the camera. I need to talk to them. And I need to get over myself, get over my discomfort, and push myself through.
A way I did it because I mean you've seen my social media, especially in the past. I used to talk to camera all the time and like to give my little kind of thoughts and everything. I used to always look at the camera and think about the person that I wanted to get that
Oh, that's
message.
genius. Genius.
So I'm not
your
talking to a
ideal,
camera. I'm talking to
yes,
my
talking to a
ideal
person,
client. I'm talking to the person that
ideal
I
client
believe needs to
avatar.
needs to hear this the most. And so that's who
I
I'm
love it.
talking to.
Yeah.
Sometimes I look at myself at the camera. I'm like, you prick, you need to hear this.
Yeah, you need this. Yeah, I'm talking to you, dummy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm talking to you, man. Like, come on, like you know this, but
Yeah.
let's actually start to take action on
Yeah.
it. So,
That's funny. That's funny. I love it.
that's awesome, Ryan. Well, anything else you want to kind of talk about? I know, I value your time as well. I've got plenty of time today, but we can talk about so many different things. I know. Is there anything else that you want to kind of talk about, or you think that we should, dive into, or today, or?
Just to kind of put a capstone on the vibration frequency thing, I just want to make it clear, like, I hope everybody understands that the vibration that we create is the action that we take. Okay.
That's a good one.
And then the result of that is the frequency that is being produced and sent out into the world. But at the same time, we are creating frequency, right? But we also have a receiver tower. Like we also have a receiver that we need to be willing to be open to receive the things coming our way. We're not just content producers or like, just putting things out into the world. But at the same time, it's like that whole idea of karma. What you put out will come back to you, but you got to be willing to
To receive.
be open to receive it. Yeah.
Mm.
Or else and to bring it all the way back to energy, you're not going to be able to fill your cup, right? If you're not open to receive that, if you think your bucket is full already, you can't learn anymore,
How
then
do
you're
you
not
make
going to.
sure that your receiver is actually turned on?
There's a mantra that I kind of go through and I think to myself and I kind of put it out in the universe like, what is it that I need to learn today?
Ooh.
What is it I need to receive today? It could be from like the source of my spiritual belief. It could be help from someone, because we're the helpers, right? We typically don't invite help or allow people to help us because we're the ones who do the helping. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's, what do I need to receive from someone today? Like I need to be able to be open to receive something from someone today. And it could be as simple as a compliment. If someone compliments my shoes or my shirt or an idea or something I said, I need to be able to be like, thank you and receive it
Actually receive it.
appropriately
Be in the
instead of
moment
being
and
like,
receive it.
yes, instead of diminishing it and being like, oh, it's nothing. It's not a big deal. No, it is a big deal. Thank you
I,
for seeing it.
it's interesting. I was at a conference once, and the presenter was talking kind of around this, around the fact of like letting people celebrate and do what they need to do also. And the
Yeah.
example he gave was when somebody offers to buy you lunch or pay for your lunch. Don't
Don't
diminish
argue.
it. Don't argue with it.
Yes.
Like if somebody's willing to do it, like if they're doing it over and over again, then yeah, there's a point where it's like, no, you like, but also that's their way of contributing. A lot of times that's making them feel that's filling their cup, allowing them to do that.
Right.
So actually receive that in that manner
Yes.
of, hey, thank you.
Yes, don't stifle somebody's opportunity to provide you with a service.
Yeah. Whether that
Yeah.
be physical service, whether it be an emotional service, it's a
Yeah.
compliment. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I remember that. And so now when somebody goes, "Hey, let me get this," I'll be like, "Oh, thanks, man. Now
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it next time." And so you
Right.
set that precedent of, "Hey, I'm gonna get this next time," because again,
Right.
you want it. If you're living there from that place of contribution, it's again, but it's receiving that from a place of
Yes.
like, "Hey, thank you, man. Like I appreciate you for this." Like,
And by definition, you're operating in the law of reciprocation,
mm,
right? You're allowing that receiving and giving cycle to continue.
yeah,
If you're like, no, 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 like,
yeah, yeah, which so many
then you're
people do.
stifled alone and allow and enrich our lives.
Yeah.
The more we give, the more we get.
And do that randomly. I remember one of the most fulfilling times I
Yeah,
had was when I was
it's so
in
great.
doing my motorcycle trip, and I was in a place of anxiety and fear of a homeless guy at a gas station stealing my bag. And
Yeah,
so my way of actually taking action on that was to lean into contribution, was to lean into giving. And
yeah,
I went to the homeless guy and I was like, "Hey man, can I buy you a cup of coffee? Like, can I buy you a cup of coffee?
right,
Can I buy you like a snack inside?" I had no money at the time either. Like I was
right.
like, doing it on
Yeah.
an absolute tightest budget you
Yeah.
can think.
Even ask a simple question. What is it you're looking for?
But just the fact that, I took him inside, bought him a cup of coffee, I took it to the till and, I took it to the counter and I paid for it. And then we had a great conversation. He was a veteran. He was struggling. He had challenges, similar things to what I had been going through. And so we had these conversations and it was absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
And, it
yeah.
was all
Love it,
because
man.
of a place that I actually leaned into that fear and I was like, cool, how do I take action on this? How do I overcome this? But it
Yeah,
again went into that place of contribution and that again back to that frequency, went into that, okay,
yeah.
cool, I'm gonna give this frequency. And yeah, it was great. And it
Am I
shifted
putting
it
out?
shifted so much stuff from that moment on in the trip. And I, reflecting back on in the moment I didn't realize it, but reflecting back on it, I was like, wow, that was a turning point. It was a massive turning point in my life.
And then you're just vibing the rest of
Yeah,
the trip. You're just
exactly.
in that state of vibration where you're putting that thing out into the world,
And being
and
able to
that becomes
receive
your
it.
frequency. Yeah,
Yeah, and being
yeah,
able to receive it. It's like if you're putting it out,
yeah.
it's like, okay, cool, now I can receive it. So there's times where, people out of the blue would, be like, "Oh, Chris, come stay at my house because, so you don't have to pay for, a camping place, or you don't have to do this or you don't have to do that." I was like, "Oh, like you're actually in that position to be able to actually receive it. And you actually do it and you're grateful for it." So no, I love that, Ryan. Well, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for coming on
It's always a
again.
pleasure.
Yeah, we'll have to do it. I'm going to say this again. We'll have to do it again soon because these conversations were always
Yeah,
we
it's
always have
fun.
some good conversations on stuff. Yeah, man. I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing amazing. Have a good trip. I know you're going off on a bit of a trip this afternoon, so
Yeah,
enjoy
yeah.
enjoy that. Have fun, enjoy your time with family, and yeah, we'll talk again soon. You've got the link to book on, so feel free to book it to another
Yeah.
time
Heck
anytime
yeah,
you
dude.
want.
Awesome. Yeah.
And
Sounds good, man.
we'll have a conversation. And any last words that you want to add out there?
No, that's it, dude. Just you give what you get,
Mm.
or you get what you give. How's that? You get what you
Yeah,
give.
you get what you give. It is so true. And off the back of that, I'm gonna say, give this out to somebody. If you feel it,
Yeah.
if somebody popped into your head this conversation, if somebody popped into your head during it, send the link to them because there's a reason that that popped in your head. That frequency hit right for that person. So go, send it to them so they have that conversation. If you want to come on, let me know. Go to just email me, brotherhood@motivatedmasculinemen.com. Let's get you on. We'll have a conversation. Or if you just want to, reach out, say hi, say thanks for doing it, whatever it is that you want to kind of do. Till next time, I thank you all for listening and watching. Make sure you do hit that like, subscribe so it gets out there to even more people because that's what it's all about. And we will talk to you again soon. Remember, train hard, test easy.